Mr. Mike.
How are you doing,
Nice
Ahmed?
to, yes, I'm good. What about you?
I'm very good. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, me too. What about yourself? How's it going?
How's it doing? Yeah, good. It's a bit of a rainy day here in Vietnam, so it's been dry up until now, and now it's starting to get into the rainy season.
Mm. Oh, you live in Vietnam? I thought you live in okay. Do you live
Sorry,
in
could you say that again? I
Vietnam
think there
as
was
a
some
tourist or for
internet
you?
trouble.
I thought you lived in the Ireland.
I have not been in Ireland for over a year.
Hmm. Okay, but I read in your profile you are
Yeah, that's
Irish,
right. Yeah,
right? Hmm. Okay. What about the Vietnam? Which is better, Vietnam or Ireland?
yeah. So I think there is a bit of a delay. So maybe like 5 second delay between your audio and my audio. So there may be some strange pauses.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you have problem with your sound right now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Which is better, Vietnam or Ireland?
That depends on what you want. Um, Ireland
Hmm.
offers uh, probably better pay opportunities in terms of jobs, but it gets offset by the high cost of living. If you like 4 seasons of weather, then Ireland is perfect. Very, very stable country. Never gets too hot, never really gets too cold. It's always pretty mild. It's also very small, so it's easy to travel around and see a lot of the country. And food is generally high
Hmm.
quality and very, very tasty as well. Vietnam,
Hmm.
substantially cheaper,
Uh,
very nice weather and
cheaper.
environment, but has some problems
Hmm.
with
What's the
traffic.
weather like? Rainy, sunny, stormy, windy, dusty storm. Can you describe the
In
weather
Ireland,
there in Vietnam? I never traveled to the Vietnam. No, in both of them. First of all, you described for the weather in Vietnam right now.
so in Vietnam, in the winter time, it doesn't really get too cold. It can get down to about 10 degrees, maybe, but
Mm.
usually it would be like 15 degrees would be the kind of average in the winter. It gets quite polluted this time of year. The air quality is quite bad. It
Mm.
normally doesn't rain. It's just a bit sort of humid. But then summertime, you can expect a lot more heavy rain and intense sunshine with temperatures up to 40 degrees and lots of humidity.
Okay, how long have you been as a teacher in Cambly?
I think 7 months,
Oh, wow.
maybe
Is there a
longer, 7 or 8 months.
specific way? Uh, is there a specific way to improve my English language? By the way, let me tell you about where I live. You never ask me. You don't ask me right now when I talk to you or when start these sessions. I live in Iraq. People who speak in Iraq Kurdish in the north and Arabic in the south. How can I improve English language? Is there a specific plan or to divide the four skills? For example, 30 minutes for reading, 30 minutes for listening, writing, and speaking, or there's a magical way to develop your English language like a native speaker. Practice, shadowing, which is fast way. I use Cambly for about 5 months. Start from the November last year. I struggle with some vocabularies. I cannot spell very well like a native speaker, and sometimes I cannot bring the vocabulary during my speech with the native speaker or with people who speak language.
Well, to answer that question, it depends on each person. So there's not
Yeah.
really any one way that's going to be better for everybody. It really does depend on each person. Like I'm not good at learning languages, so for me it would be a much slower process and a much more difficult process to learn a new language than maybe someone else. Um, I was speaking to a student from Saudi Arabia earlier who spent
Mm.
6 months in Bristol, and he said the only English he knew before he went was yes and no. And I was chatting to him today, and he spoke. Yeah, I would rate his English probably 5 out of 10. So it was good enough for conversation, and in such a short amount of time, that is actually very impressive. But that's just his speaking. His writing, he said it was not so good. So it really depends on what focus you put. So if you do split it up into 30 minutes a day on different things, then you can maybe raise your reading, speaking, listening, and writing all equally. But if you focus on one, then you'll improve that very quickly. Um, Immersing yourself in a country where they only speak a certain language is the quickest way of picking up the spoken language. If you want to improve listening, I always recommend TV shows and movies in English, as well as music, podcasts, audiobooks
Okay, send
for
it the link
reading.
for this. Send it, please. I'm sorry to interrupt your speech. Send it to the link that's movies or music or any other things you think that's improve my English language. Send it to me for links for this. Yes. Do you think learning like a baby is faster? Because babies sometimes to make a abbreviation for the learning English. I think it's difficult to learn English and grammar, both of them, because sometimes grammar to need to practice more than language.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand the first part of the sentence. Did you say
Hmm.
for babies?
Yes, for babies. I think babies it's learning English faster than adults, right?
Yeah, I think okay, yeah.
Especially the babies when they touch with the language. There's a difference between the learning like a babies and learning like adults. Babies sometimes to surround their selves with the English always, with their parents, with their brothers, sisters, and they speak. And even when they not know this names or anything, we can ask them, your parents or your brother, about what can we call this, right? But sometimes adults not try this. It's difficult way for the adults, but it's easy for the babies.
Okay. Sorry, what was the question?
My question is, do you think it's follow the baby's learning when I learn English? It's better and faster?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, 100%.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
I think
Yes, go ahead.
there's a lack of anxiety with babies and also young children. Uh, they are,
Hmm.
they can practice easier without as much fear of failing.
Okay. What about the Duolingo? I use Duolingo for maybe in 1 years. Do you think Duolingo it's useful to help the learning English?
Yeah, definitely. I haven't used it for English, but I have used it a bit for Vietnamese and Irish and Latin as well. And
Hmm.
Duolingo can maybe get repetitive, but it is a good way of learning a lot of the fundamentals. Um, but you really do need to actually have a chance to practice speaking. I know there is like a voice recording function in Duolingo, but having a
Mm,
more random and erratic conversation with a real person can make a big difference with practicing.
mm. Okay. Listening, it's listening for 30 minutes. It's enough every day. That's mean random listening. It's not depends what I always listening, not serious or film or anything or a story. Sometimes do like to listen to the romantic story or sometimes to horrible film. Anything listening, it's useful or to planning for listening.
I think everything is useful. I do think maybe um, some things can pose more of a challenge. Like if you're listening to something where the language is more formal, maybe more poetic, then it'll give you exposure to more difficult words. So, like for example, there's a big difference between reading um, Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings in terms of the how the dialogue is.
Mm,
And the same goes with audio. If you are listening to something that is just more complex, it will give you more of a challenge. And generally speaking, challenge is the best way to learn quickly.
mm. Uh, do you think it's stories? It's better to for learning English or learning any language because stories complete all the things, language, the sentences, the phrases, and adverbs, proposition, and others, collections, everything. It's to collect every grammar, the kind of the grammar and the speech of words, of word of speech. Sorry. Do you think it's faster to learn English? Is there specific stories to improve my English language with the series of stories?
Well, I hadn't really thought about that, but actually that does make sense. Novels and like especially fantasy stories and things where that it's written from certain perspectives can probably I think that would be the best style of story to listen to because um, it kind of it will cover all different perspectives, which then uses all different kinds of grammar, as you say. So I think actually, yeah, it would make the most sense to listen to like novels and stories. I always recommend The Lord of the Rings because it was written by a very well-read professor, and he also did some work on the dictionary, the Oxford Dictionary. So the
Mm.
language is very uh, well put together and very complete. So that would be my
Okay,
recommendation.
what? Okay, let me ask you something because the time up. Ask you something. It's strange sometimes. Okay, what is
Strange?
the dangerous challenge faced in your life?
Dangerous challenge face in my life. Define dangerous. Like actually threatens my existence, or
Mm. I'm sorry. Yes.
well, I guess that would be a close tie between climate change devastation or Vietnamese traffic.
Mm. Okay. Which is the longest word in English language?
I don't know, but I know the longest town name is in Wales.
Really? Okay, okay. Don't sweet it or don't worry. I will tell you. The longest word disease in lake. That's mean it's pneumonia ultramicroscopic silicoconiosis. This is American doctor that invented in I think in 1955.
Um,
Mm.
I
Okay, which is a short word in English language?
ah
Huh?
ah
I.
I I would have said ah.
Yes. Can you type it? Uh, no, it's a letter, not a word. But I,
Uh,